for you to
Okay.
speak to
Well,
something.
wave at me when I've got about 3 minutes left. Just wave at me. Okay, guys, I'm Kristine Arlitt. Everyone calls me Christy. I have been practicing law for about 25 years, and I just moved to the Frisco area from San Antonio. So, building my law practice here is what I'm doing in 2024. I also have a pack of grandchildren, and if the 6, 8 soccer games a week, I have explained to them that I may not be making all those games because I need to really, really emphasize my work this year. Um, I have always been a civil litigator, which means that you go to the courtroom and you try cases. You're either for the plaintiff or you're for the defendant. Up here in Frisco, I'm going to try to ease out of a lot of the civil litigation. I'm going to be doing a lot of estate planning and a lot of probate, and the probate courts have a tremendous amount of litigation in them. So I will be willing to take on litigation cases in the probate court. I'm also going to be doing real estate law. And as I mentioned before, I've done a few hundred divorces. So in our courts, roughly 90% of every single case that goes in front of our district courts are related to family law. It's either the divorce, it's renegotiation of visitation, of child support, or issues that have come up after the parties are actually divorced. I have been divorced twice, so I'm adding my name to the list. I think almost everyone here has been through a divorce. I will tell you that over 50% of first marriages that were made in heaven end up in hell. And on second marriages, the number is over 60%. And normally, the second marriage problem are the kids that either one or both of the people bring into the second marriage. It's normally the kids that break up the second marriage, and it's money issues. I can tell you, money issues are the number one reason for divorce. Infidelity, yes, that could be an issue. Well, we just don't get along anymore. Yeah, that could be an issue. But most divorces are based on money problems. That's the great majority of the divorces, the basis for our divorces. When you think of a divorce, well, when you think of an estate planner doing the work that I do, where I do wills, I do powers of attorney, I do medical directives, which I call the Unplug Me document, that's dealing with death and what happens as you die or as you end up in that latter part of your life. If you think of a divorce as the death of a marriage, you'll suddenly start to see all the tentacles. Divorces just have tentacles. Yes, I am one section of it. Maybe I'm the divorce lawyer, or maybe I'm the estate planning lawyer, or maybe somewhere along the way there's a probate because those issues do arise too. But I'm only one little bitty cog in the wheel. This wheel has lots of cogs, and all of you have your own role and your own job within the divorce process. I will tell you from the standpoint of estate planning, if you're married and you have signed wills, and under the will that you have signed, it says, I leave my spouse, whatever, everything normally. When you divorce, on the day the judge actually signs that actual final decree of divorce, that provision in anyone's will is gone. It is taken out. Now, you may be in the middle of a divorce and one of you dies. You still take under the will. The survivor still takes under the will. But every single person who gets a divorce, I can tell you, has got to get a new will. And they better think about getting new powers of attorney. Powers of attorney, both medical, what we call statutory durable powers of attorney, which are the powers of attorney to handle all your business affairs, they still stay alive and active even after the divorce. Only the provision in the will, leaving anything to an ex-spouse, is dead with the signing of the final decree. So all those documents that you sign, like when I do an estate packet, there's 7 documents that they get. And it's the will, it's maybe a trust, it is the power of attorney for medical decisions, it's the statutory durable power of attorney, which is the business power of attorney. It can be the naming of a guardian if something goes wrong and you need a guardian To stop the fight, you pre-name who you want to have as the guardian. You can have a guardian of the person. You can have a guardian of your financial issues. So all these documents need to be updated. And that's my little cog in the wheel of the divorce world. But when you think about it, and when Jenny, I started writing down, Jenny, but you talk so fast, I can't write that fast. Of all the other people, I made a quick list myself as I was preparing for today about who is it that I see turn up in divorces. Who turns up? Well, obviously the divorce lawyer, obviously the estate planning attorney, especially when we have children, we have to really, really get involved. The CPA will always be involved. Normally, we will find a real estate agent will either be helping one of the parties buying new housing, helping sell the original house, buying or locating two places for both of the parties to the divorce to live. And that gets into a lot of discussions because then that gets into school districts and that gets into what can you really afford. And that gets into we've got to unload this house to get our names off of the note because all of us have only so much credit at the bank. And if you have committed your name and your assets to paying the mortgage on the original house that you had in the marriage, you have got to get your name off that note. Okay, that's easy when nothing has changed. But in the last year and a half, interest rates have skyrocketed and nobody wants to give up those 2.5%, 3.5% notes. So that's a huge fight. And there are ways we can get around it. But that's a huge fight. But the realtors get involved. Obviously, the mortgage brokers very muchly get involved. Title companies, you need to have title companies that understand divorce. Closing on a home that's in a divorce is different than closing on a home where you have either one or two people who want to sell the house, want to make it as easy as possible to get the house sold. You may not have that in a divorce. You may have one of the parties fighting and they'll do anything they can to stop the sale of the house and just throw so many roadblocks. And to have a title company that understands divorce issues and what can happen. Closing at a title company can be difficult anyway. There's always something at the very end. But in divorce issues where we're selling a house that's coming out of a divorce, we find we have a lot more issues on those. The property insurance agents, very, very important because I'm going to tell you, number one, the wife changes everyone. They do not go to the same attorney anymore. They will not use the same CPA anymore. They will not use the same real estate agent anymore. They refuse to use the same mortgage broker. I could go down the list. I are one, so I can say this. Women have a tendency to not be overly trusting, and they have no intention of having anything to do with their ex-husband's CPA, or their ex-husband's realtor, or their ex-husband's banker, or their ex-husband's insurance agent. They change everyone. Very rarely do we see the wife stay because they're concerned that those people are going to be giving feedback to the ex-husband. So you need to, I'm not going to say zero in on the women, but the wives are where you're going to pick up your business. And I will tell you, I was a Series 7 broker with Merrill Lynch for a few years, and they ran an international contest. And I put together a program of how to get in with lawyers. People listen to their lawyers. If a lawyer advises someone or recommends someone, that person calls them immediately and sees if they can strike a relationship with that person. And I wrote this thing for Merrill Lynch, and I actually won the international contest because they said, oh my God, we had never really thought about emphasizing getting to those people who are around divorcing parties. Number one, of course, is the divorce lawyer, but there are other people too. There are these other people. You've got the life insurance agents. There's lots of life insurance that passes and is bought, sold, traded during divorces. We have to pick up new life insurance because we want a life insurance policy to guarantee the child support payments and the college education, and there's a lot of that. The banker, there are banks that specialize in divorced people and helping them. And I can assure you, the wife is going to move everything to a new bank. And I recommend that they do. Start fresh. You need to have a fresh start. When you wake up that day after that divorce petition is signed, you need to have a fresh life. So the bankers, we need to get somebody in here who's a banker, who is willing to help build credit for maybe one of the parties who got the divorce. Investment brokers. Do we have an investment broker? Did I hear an investment broker go by? I was kind of looking at notes while everyone was introducing themselves. The investment broker, if one of the, you may see at least one of the people change investment brokers, it will be the wife. She will not go back to the husband's investment broker, I can assure you. The doctor, the wives are not going to go back to the same doctor because they're scared that that doctor is going to talk to their ex-spouse. The other one that I put down on my list are the family counselors. And I see we have a couple with us today. Very, very important. And they play a major role. If our goal as a divorce lawyer is to do two things always, and maybe a third thing. Number one, we dissolve the bonds of holy matrimony. Number two, we divide the assets and the liabilities. And our third section is if there are children, we have to deal with all those issues dealing with children. But the first two, we always have. That's what a divorce is. It's the dissolution of the bonds of holy matrimony and the resolution of the estate, both the assets and the liability. Our goal, what's our goal? Get it done quickly, get it done as inexpensively as possible, get the very best results for both parties, but then help the divorcing party set up for their future. It's really hard in many, many cases to get over the hump of the divorce and quit thinking about the divorce. The divorce is the mechanics that we will get you through at some point. And as you think about the mechanics of the divorce, be thinking about your future. I always laugh because the women always want the children. And they always say, oh, I want custody of the kids, and he blah, blah, blah. And I go, just remember, you're going to set your career back tremendously if you take full-time custody. And you get to have the kids Monday through Friday when they have to go to school, they have to go to bed early, they have to do your homework, they have to take baths, blah, 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 blah. And then the other parent gets to have them at the happy times, Saturday and Sunday, on holidays, if they want them. And a lot of people forget that other parent doesn't ever have to come get those kids. And I have people who go for years. In my personal divorce, we didn't see the children's father for 2 years. He was having the time of his life after our divorce. And it was over 2 years before it occurred to him, hey, I've got these 2 kids I should come back and see. And that happens. And that just happens. So what I suggest is always take sort of a helicopter view. Yes, you are the mortgage broker. And yes, we got to figure out how to come up with enough of a credit score and enough of a down payment and figure out how to get those percentages and those numbers up there. But mortgage broker man, you need to be dealing with the divorce lawyer to see what we can get this other person that you're working with. You need to be dealing with the insurance person so that the person who's buying the house understands that principal and interest payment is probably half of the cost of that house. You got to do that insurance. You got to figure out those taxes. There's a lot more to buying the house. So certainly the banker, the mortgage people, and the investment people have to work very, very carefully with the attorneys who are involved so that you set the people up for the future. And like I said, getting people over the hump, that's hard. And I always tell people, by the time you come to the lawyers and you're going to be paying me $350, $400 an hour, the fight's over. If you still want to be fighting, go find a counselor at $100, $150 an hour. You don't want to be paying me to referee your fights. My job is really to divide the assets, divide the liabilities, and figure out what we can do best with the kids. And that's where you come to me. And that's why we have a couple people who are talking about being counselors. Really, really important. We're seeing more and more of this because they take a different view. We do not want high conflict. The worst thing you can do, the old timey lawyers who would get everybody fighting and fight, 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 fight. We don't want that. It's incredibly expensive in legal fees and heartache and pain. I was married to a lawyer. He didn't want to be a husband, but then again, he didn't want the divorce when it came. Okay, y'all ready for this? 22 years before I got my final decree. He took me to the Supreme Court of Texas twice and to the United States Supreme Court once. He was a lawyer. He knew how to do it. It was a great excuse to never get married again. I could always say, hey, I can't, buddy. I'm still dealing with my divorce. But 22 years of fighting. We don't want that. That's the last thing that you want. Our goal is to do this quickly, efficiently. Both sides are going to be unhappy if we get a good resolution. Both sides are going to say, man, I just didn't get what I deserved. Both sides are bad. That's usually a really good resolution to the problem because there is no winner. There can't be a loser. Why would you settle up? Most of our cases, over 92% of our cases settle. We go to mediation, a really good mediator. And I'm telling you, we need to get some really good mediators in. And I've got a couple who, one in particular, his name is Michael Jackson, and he does play in a band and he does sing. He's crazy guy, nicest guy in the world. And he may be the best mediator that has ever come along when children are involved. And man, he really lays in to the parties about right now, y'all need to settle up today's fight. And then you need to look forward to the next 40, 50 years with these kids. The relationships with the kids do not stop at age 18. They go on forever. And that's something that a lot of people, they're just so eaten up in the divorce. The divorce is very quick. It should be very fast. 6 months and it should be over. There really is no reason for it to be longer than 6 months to get it done. But divorce affects everything. It affects, obviously, your marriage, obviously, your relationship with your soon-to-be ex-spouse. It affects your relationship with your kids. It affects your relationship with the kids' grandparents. It affects everything dealing with your business. I think that when you are young, you don't really understand that marriage license is the most far-reaching contract you will ever sign. It touches every facet of your life, and it just controls everything. And so when you decide to terminate that contract, everything is touched. And that's why we need this world of people. Like from my standpoint, I've been practicing down in San Antonio for over 20 years. I am looking for people to refer business to. I am looking for people to be my counselors for clients, to be the mortgage broker, to be the real estate broker, to be the whatever. I know we have a private investigator. We do use private investigators. Normally, we use private investigators when there's an allegation of infidelity when it comes to divorces. That's the normal reason. The other reason we use it is when we have a spouse who we believe is abusing drugs and alcohol. And I've got one divorce going on right now where we've been tracking the wife, and we have pictures of her at 10 a.m. in the morning, sitting in bars, drinking beer after beer after beer, and then going at 2 o'clock to pick the kids up and driving around town with them. Not good. And we got lots of pictures. That's going to be one that will probably settle up. Let's see. Let's talk about very quickly, because this is a little bit more toward my world. Why do you need a will? And people are going through divorces and they're going, I'm broke. I don't have any money. I'm having to make a down payment on a house. Or maybe you're forced to buy a new car, whatever it is. And they go, I just don't have the money to do it. I will tell you that the what I call the will packet, the 7 documents, I charge $1,000 for it. If you go into probate in the state of Texas right now, it's about a $3,500 cost to probate. Very, very cheap compared to any other state in the United States. So it's a total cost of about $4,500 if you have a will. If you do not have a will that you have written, Very graciously, the state of Texas has written a will for you. And it's the statutory law dealing with dying intestate. In other words, you die without a will. You can figure that that process is going to cost you about $20,000. So you can pay $1,000 today while you're alive, or you can let your estate be handled by the state of Texas for something more in the neighborhood of 20,000, and you're not going to get what you want. You're going to get how the state of Texas has the statutory law. State of Texas will decide who's going to get your estate, who's going to get everything that you owned, how your bills are going to be paid. And it's much, much cheaper to have a will. That's also true about when you're alive. A lot of people talk about the will because everybody says, oh, we're going to have a will. Well, you do have to have a will, but you're dead and gone. So exactly what happens after that, that's not near as much of an importance to you than the documents that control your life while you're still alive. And that's the medical power of attorney, the statutory durable power of attorney, the business attorney, the directive to physicians, pre-naming who you want to have for a guardian. Do you want to have a do not resuscitate signed and ready to go? Those affect you while you're still alive. And those are really the more important documents to you. And with a divorce, we have life's changes. Life's changes is when you need to sit down and have a serious talk with yourself, look in the mirror and have a serious talk. What do I need to do? Well, what are life's exciting changes? You get married, everything changes. You divorce, everything changes. You have children, everything changes. You lose a child, everything changes. You win the lottery, everything changes. You come into a large inheritance, life-changing events. All of those are life-changing events. And that's when you need to sit down and talk to an estate planning attorney who can tell you what can you do, what can you not do. Can you rule from the grave? You better believe it, you can if you want to. There are a lot of things that we can do to help people. Let's see, the other thing I was telling you about, and I mentioned this very briefly a moment ago, and that is, believe it or not, people listen to their lawyers. And when I tell them to call so-and-so to talk to them about the insurance, they will call them. If I say, call so-and-so, this is a counselor, I think she can help you through what you're dealing, or he can help you through with what you're dealing with, they're going to call them because they do that. It's like a doctor telling them. Doctors don't give out advice like that. They don't give referrals very well. Or they don't do it. They normally don't do it, but lawyers do.
Kristine, 2 minutes, Kristine.
2 minutes. Okay. I was going to tell you real quickly. People call me, have me figure out their car loans, what car to buy and how to get the loan. They help me figure out what house to go buy and how to figure out the mortgage. They have me ask, they ask for what doctors I should use, what they should use. Their investment advisors, their insurance brokers. I've had them call me up and say, Christy, I want to go to lunch. I want to introduce you to the person I'm thinking about marrying, and I want you to okay the person. And I will tell you, I have friends who've gotten married before, and one of their wedding presents is my business card, and I flip it over and I write on the back, good for one divorce. And I have given that to a number of friends, and a few have been cashed in. I can tell you this, time is absolutely of the essence in this particular business. January is the biggest time for new divorce filings. And the reason is everyone hangs in through one more Thanksgiving and Christmas. And we will have more divorces filed in January and February than any other time of the year. So right now is really the time to be putting your thinking cap on and figuring out who to talk to. I definitely am looking for referrals. I'm looking for people that I can refer clients to. I need to have people that I can refer clients to. So I'm happy to answer any questions. If I don't know the answer, I'll tell you I don't know the answer.
Does anybody have any questions for Kristine right now? Kristine?
I've got a few.
I'm sorry, what?
I got a few questions.
Okay.
On the will versus a trust, I'm not sure if that's your expertise, but would it be better to get a living trust set up versus a will, or does it matter?
Okay. The living trust deals with the property that gets deeded into the trust. There is no way that we can deed everything into a trust. We cannot deal what I call your stuff, like all the items in your house. We can't deal, if it doesn't have a title, we can't get it into the trust. We can put the house in, we could put a business in, we could put the car titles in, but you're still going to need that will to kind of what we call do the Mother Hubbard and clean up the process. The other reason for the living trust is if you are going to turn management of your estate over to someone, primarily a bank or a trust company, they're going to want to have those assets in a living trust. Almost every single trust department is going to want those assets in a living trust, but you still need to have a will. We can't
So
put
you
everything
will,
in
okay.
a living trust.
Okay, and that's, you're talking about if you're married versus not married, or
Either way, either way, either
Okay.
way.
Okay, and then I'm not sure. I didn't hear anything about alimony. Is that something in Texas that's normal? That do you?
Texas does not have alimony. However, Texas has spousal support. They don't call it alimony, they call it spousal support. If you have been a stay-at-home housekeeper, parent, and you've been out of the workforce, the court can order 2 years of support to allow you to maybe go get some education, test the waters, figure out where you can get a job. But the other thing that we do quite often is we set up a judgment, a note where the spouse who has maybe a very large income where the other spouse has none, we will set up a judgment that gets paid off over a period of years. And then that gives the other spouse who doesn't have a large income for a number of years. And a lot of times it's a divorce lawyer, or excuse me, a lawyer who's gotten a divorce, or a doctor who's gotten a divorce, or a high-tech person who generates a lot of money, and they've got their estate set up to where maybe the other spouse is not getting enough to really support them. So yes,
Okay.
there's spousal support for 2 years if you've been a stay-at-home, non-working spouse, and quite often we set up judgments when there's a huge money difference.
Okay, last one. As far as like, have you seen prenuptials not work, or because I got to get married again one day, and I got to figure this thing out.
We are allowed to do prenups. We
Yeah.
are allowed to do postnups. I have done all of those. When you do the prenup, one of the biggest issues is you must disclose on paper all your assets. Because if you don't let the other side know what you have, that means that they didn't enter into the prenup with full knowledge. And I will tell you, normally, when we do a prenup, I would do a prenup. The divorce lawyer comes along years down the road, and the divorce lawyer looks at the prenup and says, oh, well, this is what we know they're willing to pay. Let's find out how much they're willing to pay now if they really want to get rid of you. And so it kind of becomes maybe the base number to start negotiating.
So you're just saying don't get married.
I didn't say that, but I haven't been married for 35 years. So I don't know. I will tell you this, marriage is an institution that right now is dying off. And the older you get, the less likely it is that you're going to be getting married. It's just the numbers. People are not getting married.
Stay single, Joe.
I mean, I don't mind contracts. It's just that one sounds like the worst one ever.
It is the most binding contract you will ever sign. It affects your entire life.
Yeah, on both sides.
On both sides. On both sides. Absolutely.
Kristine,
Yes.
can I reach out to you and pick your brain? Because I just watched a case this morning that had the Honeycutt rule regarding alimony, and I really couldn't get a feel for the ending outcome. And
Okay.
I was thinking this morning that I needed to find a lawyer to ask, and here you are.
And here I am. Yes. And if I don't know the answer of what you're specifically looking for, I'll find it for you.
Okay.
And are you down in San Antonio?
I am.
Well, I've been there my whole life. I just moved here a year ago. So I certainly know everyone in San Antonio. All the judges know me in San Antonio. Very
good.
well.
Okay. Then you're a good resource for me because I'm trying to introduce the idea of this to San Antonio because this is really the Wild Wild West.
San Antonio?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're like the good old boy network down here. They don't.
Well, they have 14 judges, 13 are women, and not all of them, but almost all of them have been divorced. So if you're representing men, that's not the world's best courthouse to go into. And normally I represent men. I will tell you, normally I represent men. The bulk of my divorce clients are men. Because I have this idea that men have been mistreated by the courts. And I'm finding more and more men who truly, truly want to have a very, very active role in their children's lives. And the Texas law is not favorable to that. It's very muchly written for the benefit of the women. And I find that very irritating. And there are a lot of men who make much better parents than women make parents.
You hear that, Joe? Stay single.
Staying there, I'm staying there. It's tough.
No, what I said was men in many instances are the better parent. I just
Yep.
see so many men now that want to really be active. I mean, they truly want to be
Yeah.
active, and they don't want to be coming every other weekend, the first, fifth,
Nope.
or first, third, and fifth weekends. They want to see those kids. I'm seeing more and more. I negotiate all the time. 50-50 child custody. We trade on Friday afternoon. The swap is at school. When school lets out on Friday afternoon, the kids go spend an entire week with the other parent.
That's awesome.
More
It's
and
good
more
to
of
hear.
that. Not allowed by
even-
law. A judge cannot give you that. You have to negotiate that. The law does not allow a judge to give 50-50 possession of the kids, which I have a real problem with that.
And
Yeah.
that's in Texas, though, because I had somebody tear into me the other day when I said the premise is to go into it looking for a 50-50 split. And they said, Texas does not have, and I said, because Texas is behind the national legislative trend. I said, but that is the national trend of 50-50. I said, Texas is just a little bit behind. I said, but as a custody evaluator, as a mediator, I said, I go into everything with 50-50 in mind.
Why shouldn't it be 50-50? Why
Yeah,
shouldn't both sides pay half the bills of the kids? Why shouldn't it be 50-50?
Well,
Well,
takes
there's a therapist on. I wouldn't debate it, but some therapists believe that that's harder on the kids. Less stability back and forth is very hard on children. So if you were to see the other side, that's the only side that I've ever heard that it can be
Well,
hard.
I've been a therapist for over 28 years, and I think that children can, if the parents are active participants in collaborative co-parenting, it doesn't have
Well,
to be.
that's always the key. But that's the key. I think kids can handle anything as long as the parents are getting along. That's where the work needs to be.
Yeah.
That's the hard part. And we have facilitators. Have y'all heard of facilitators here in
I-
Texas? We have facilitators who we probably should get. Are you a facilitator?
Yeah.
Oh, you are? Okay. I was going to say we should have a facilitator, and a lot of judges use them. And what happens is when during the divorce or after the divorce, there becomes a conflict between mom and dad, primarily dealing with the kids. Instead of spending $350, $400 on this lawyer and $400 an hour on that lawyer, and a lot of divorce lawyers now are charging $500 down in Bexar County, I can tell you. You call the facilitator and you see everybody puts their gripe on the table and the facilitator tries to work it out instead of getting into a long-winded, part of the problem with the judicial process, nothing is fast.
No.
It is horribly, I always say the wheels of justice turn slow, slow, slow. The wheels of justice, and that's why it's so expensive. But I'll be very frank with you. I have done divorces for under $2,000, and I've done divorces over $200,000, where I got paid over $200,000. But if people can walk into me and bring me a yellow pad with a line down the middle, on the left side is what she gets, and on the right side is what he gets, or he, or she, whatever it is, and they've signed it, I can file that petition. I can wait 60 days. I can get a waiver of service signed. I can do a final decree. They sign off on it. We get on a Zoom call with a court and it's done, $2,000. And you don't see that very often. But that's actually the way it should be. Like I said, by the time you come to the lawyer, you better quit fighting, because boy, you're gonna spend a lot of money on lawyers handling your fighting.
Next month, I begin training as a guardian ad litem for family court.
Well, I've got about 10 of those on my desk right now that I'm handling.
Wow. Wow.
Any
Thank
other
you.
questions? I'm happy to answer any questions.
I have-
Nobody asked me about grandparents. Y'all didn't ask me about grandparents. Everybody always says, I hear all these people, all of you say your grandparents. You know what your rights are to the grandkids?
Whatever I want.
Zero. Your
Zero.
legal right is zero. You are expected to have your visitation with the grandchildren during your child's visitation time with the children. That's all you get to have under Texas law, as long as your child is still alive or not incarcerated. If your child is incarcerated, you step into the shoes of what their visitation and possession of the children should be, or if they're dead.
I just tell my kids they're not going to be in the will. I get the grandkids whenever I want. But anyways, that is good to know because I do deal with a lot of grandparents. So
Yeah, well, and grandparents go, but doesn't matter. But I pay their tuition. I pay this, I pay that. That's really nice of you, but you have no right to see the kids.
it's sad.
Yep, it is. The law needs to be updated to the reality of what our situation is today. And our law is somewhat, and they actually did a lot of revamping of the family law not too long ago. But it's still, in my opinion, not reflective of what our society is today.
Mhm. Especially,
I've seen a lot of military people write it into the divorce decree that in the event that they're deployed, that their parents get their visitation time. It's like, I mean, I want to use the word bequeath, but it's not bequeath. It's
Right.
you know, they transferred their visitation time to their parents.
Well, that just saves having to go to court and doing it with a judge, because they would. And of course, the interesting thing is like San Antonio, you know, Military City, USA, we have parents who are divorced and then they get the orders to be shipped out. And that becomes a major, major problem because the courts are not allowed to use it against the parent who got their orders to ship out. And we do a lot of negotiating there on coming to an agreement on what works. And I will tell you what works. Every single month, there's a 3-day weekend. And so normally what I set up is whatever is that 3-day weekend. I don't care if it's first, third, fifth, fourth, second, or whatever. Those kids come to see the other parent because they can leave on Thursday night and go back either on Sunday or Monday and get back to school. And that's normally what I set up for. And then extended 6 weeks in the summer plus spring break. And of course, share Thanksgiving and Christmas. Any other questions? Ooh, because I gotta go. I got a hearing
Oh,
in
yes.
just a few
Thank you
minutes.
so much. Y'all can get in touch with Christy on that link that I put in the chat. It has everybody's phone number and email. So
Thank you,
Wonderful.
Christy. Thank
Christy's
you,
on there.
Christy.
Thank you for having me. I look forward to meeting all of you. Come to my birthday happy hour.
Yes.
We'll all meet each other. Be great.
Yes.
Zoom us in, we'll be there.